यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य
ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः सर्वोपप्लवरहित प्रज्ञान घन प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्माहमस्मि सोहमस्मि ब्रह्माहमस्मि। ओम प्रपन्न पारिजाताय तोत्र वेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। May the Almighty Sri Lord Venkateshwara bestow all kinds of prosperity, health, wealth and eternal happiness with Paripurna Lakshmi Kataksham to you and the entire your family and friends. Let us begin Srimad Bhagavad Gita, verse number 7 of 15th chapter. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Mamai Vamsho Jivaloke जीवभूतः सनातनः मनःषष्ठानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति. From this verse, Bhagavan begins the equation between Jiva and Ishvara. Now this is a 15th chapter, isn't it? The 15th chapter requires a complete backup of 14 complete chapters. We have to be thorough enough to understand every word of this chapter, because this chapter is known as what? Purushottama Yoga. This is a final touch of Vedanta. Final touch of Vedanta means what? It connects what and all the corners were created by all those chapters. Chapters from 2nd to 14. So many topics have been covered. Among those topics, some of the topics were left with incompletion, so that all those topics are completed here. Now in the beginning of this chapter, Bhagavan introduced what is the cause of the problem. What is the cause of the problem? Bhagavan says there is nothing called cause of the problem. The cause and problems are one and the same. What? How can it be cause and problems are one and the same? Because the problems which we undergo in the form of experience, I am suffering. That is what the understanding when we suffer. I am suffering. So I am suffering, therefore I have to get rid of this suffering. But Vedanta says, Bhagavan Krishna says in the first 2.5 verses, I itself are part of suffering. How can we understand this? Therefore, he taught in different way. He named it as a samsara vriksha, a beautiful tree which has got a root towards upwards, the branches towards down. The branches are not seen, all over the leaves, full of leaves in that tree. He brought 7 kinds of understanding about this samsara vriksha, so that we become very clear about what exactly the problem is. The problem is the suffering and sufferer both have to be put in the category of suffering or cause of suffering. Samsara vriksha includes ahankara too. Now this is a different dimension to look into the problem, because human beings are making effort to find the solution of problems. There are innumerable problems. Day to day we are increasing the problem. Our problems are increased. Therefore, when Bhagavan defines the problem is experienced by one person, that person is me, that person itself is the part of problem. Then the next portion, from verse number 2.5 up to verse number 6, Bhagavan gave the solution for that problem. What is the solution? Brahma Prapti becomes the solution for samsara nivritti. Attaining Brahman causes for removal of the samsara vriksha. How it is possible? What does it mean, attaining Brahman? By attaining the knowledge of Brahman, I can identify my consciousness with the collective consciousness. By that I can remove my ignorance. Once I am able to remove my ignorance, that's all, samsara vriksha becomes useless. It is slayed. Therefore, Brahma prapti sadhanani, samsara nivarti sadhanani, the means to attain Brahman, the means to slay the samsara vriksha, was explained by Lord Krishna in fourfold method. What are the fourfold methods? Vairagyena, through vairagya. Then what? Sharanagati, through surrender. Then sadguna, by adapting sadgunas means Vedanta friendly virtues. We call it sadhana chatushtayam, fourfold qualifications. These fourfold qualifications are the bedrock. They have to be the foundation for Vedanta. Vedanta is a beautiful construction. That constructions in order to demolish the construction of avidya. Therefore, we have to be careful with always the qualifications. Then finally, inquiry of the Brahman. These fourfold methods must be adapted. They are mandatory. There is no option to leave one of these four. Then after, from verse number 7 to 11, Bhagavan is doing, or he is bringing the equation between Jiva and Ishvara. Being Ishvara, he says, Mama amshaha yeva Jiva bhotaha Jiva loke. Now, who is called Jiva? Because Jiva is a technical term. Jivati. The definition from Vedas must be taken here in order to understand these words in better way. Now we have to learn what kind of consciousness is experienced by us. See, I do have body mind sense complex. You do have body mind sense complex. Everybody has body mind sense complex. Okay? I experience myself, you experience yourself, everyone experience their self. Are you sure? Yes. The experience of self, I experience in limited way, and you too experience in the limited way, and everybody also experiences in limited way. Will you accept or not? Yes. Okay. That limited consciousness is not experienced during the sleep. Why? Do you know that? Yes, of course, I am not there. That's what I am saying. That consciousness is not there during the sleep. What happens? The Jiva is endowed with three kinds of experiences. So one experience we call it waking state experience. Then the second experience we call it dream state experience. Then third experience which is known as sleeping state experiences. Now the consciousness which is experienced in limited way is called a Jivaha, who experiences these three kinds of experience states. Can you understand now? Jiva means who is endowed with three states of experiences. Jiva experience the waking state as what? As Vishwaha. It is technical term. This technical term, which is given in Tattvabodha, very useful to become clear about our own self. When I am able to enjoy the world, I am called Vishwaha. So, the enjoyment with the world, that experience with the world. In the dream also, I do have the world, but that world is not the world which is outside. That world is self-made world. And people may say, Swamiji, whatever the world is experienced in the dream, there are dream world, which is nothing but the record or recollections or some kind of registration of the world which experience in the waking state. It's okay, chalo. But how you get the same form? Elephant is seen in the dream, train is seen in the dream, mountains are seen in the dream. Everything that it looks as though really in the dream, and we also see ourselves. Okay, now the person who is called Vishwa in the waking state, the same person is called here Taijasaha. Taijasa means what? Who is in the form of light. Okay, who is endowed with only that world. World means what? Here, the world which is in the form of light. That is only light. Not with gross world, it's a subtle world. Therefore, he is known as Taijasaha. Then, when he goes into the deep sleep, there also he experiences himself as Andhaha, as Ajnaha. Therefore, he is known as Prajnaha, Prakrushena Ajnaha, as an ignorant. Okay? So, he experiences as though I am not aware about anything. I am completely Ajnaha. That experience continues. Now, Jiva means limited consciousness. That limited consciousness, it undergoes three kinds of states. Okay? So why, Swamiji, you are telling all these things here? Because we have to realize who exactly Jiva is. Shastra says about us, but we are not aware from other sources of the world. I mean, from other educations of the world. Vedanta alone says very clearly, you are called Jivaha. That Jivaha who is experienced in the limited way, that limited consciousness undergoes three kinds of states. Therefore, it takes the help of three kinds of body to experience these three kinds of states. So when I experience the waking state, the Jiva is so conscious about the physical world and physical body. Okay. Now I live with the physical body. Then when I enjoy the dream state, means Jiva enjoys the dreaming state, the dream state is nothing but subtle world, Sukshma Lokaha, Sukshma Shariraha. Then in the sleeping state, Jiva enjoys the Karana Shariram. Therefore, there are three kinds of bodies, three kinds of experiences. So, Sthula Sharira with Sthula Loka, Sukshma Sharira which is Sukshma Loka, Karana Sharira with Maya or Avidya Loka. Now, Jiva means who is undergoing three kinds of experiences with three kinds of body. If we learnt like that, immediately we may have fear. Do I have three kinds of body? I thought I have only one Sharira. Now you are saying there are three kinds of Sharira. No, it is given to understand in better way. The same three kinds of Shariras and three kinds of experiences together will be divided into five kinds of aspects. What are they? Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, Sharirani. I made it Sharirani. I didn't say Koshani. Kosha means like a ship. Annamaya Koshaha, Pranamaya Koshaha, Manomaya Koshaha, Vijnanamaya Koshaha, Anandamaya Koshaha. In five steps we divide in order to become more clear about our consciousness. Then we will come to know what is the functions are going on. What kind of functions? The function is what? Survival is the function. Okay? Body, mind and sense complex, all of them, see, total setup have been divided into two. So one is consciousness principle, another is matter principles. Now, the consciousness, pure consciousness, unlimited consciousness comes one side. With limited consciousness, all body, mind, sense complex goes with Anatma Loka, matter principle. Now, Jiva is known as what? A combination of matter and principle alone. Now, consciousness alone enlightens body, mind and sense complex, even Ahankara too. That limited consciousness is like a mirror which is placed outside of a room in which the sun reflection is taking place. That reflection of the sun may light the room, the room which is endowed with darkness, the room which symbolizes body, mind, sense, because body, mind and senses, means all indriyani, all of them are enlightened by the reflection of the sun. Now, this mirror is known as buddhi. Including mirror, the house which is in the dark, including mirror, all of them are dead material. Now the reflected consciousness, means the reflected sunlight, enlightens the mirror first, then it enlightens the room. So totally both becomes enlightened, both becomes luminous entity because of what? Original sun. Like that, sun says, my light is lighting the mirror and the room. Will you deny it? No. We will accept. Yes, of course. The reflection of sun alone illumines the mirror and it illumines the room also. The same way Bhagavan says, Mama eva amsha. Amsha means here we have to take as a reflection. My reflection alone exists in all the body which we can see in the world. Now buddhi, mind, all indriyas means sense organs and physical system, everything is enlightened by what? This reflected sunlight, means reflected consciousness. That's what he says. When that reflected consciousness is gone back, so when you remove the mirror, the light may exist, the room becomes dark. Like that, when the death happens, the consciousness, it pulls all this indriyani, it pulls this sukshma sharira from our sthola sharira. Then what? Anatomy remains. Then what goes away? The physiology goes away. Then it becomes a dead body. That's what he says. Bhagavan says, while death, what happens? This consciousness, it pulls, the reflected consciousness pulls the subtle system away from the physical system. Then what? Then what is the subtle system is known as. Therefore, we should have backed by the knowledge of the preliminary texts like Tato Bodha, Viveka Chudamani. So all those texts will give proper idea about our own physical system. Now what happens during the death? Technically, if I tell you, Karana Shariram and Sukshma Shariram goes away from Sthola Shariram. That's all. So now what is Sthola Sharira? That which is made up of Panchi Krita Pancha Mahabhotah Kritam Satkarma Janyam Sukha Dukha Bhoga Yatanam Shariram Asti Jayate Vaddhate Viparanimate Apakshiyate Vinashyati Iti Shadvikaravat Sthola Shariram. The definition from Tattva Bodha. That is called gross body, which is made up of 5 elements, 5 gross elements, that which undergo 6 kinds of modifications. What are the 6 kinds of modifications? So existing in the womb and to be born and to grow, to get modifications, to go to decay, then what? To get into unmanifestation, all these 6 kinds of modifications. All these 6 kinds of modifications can be experienced by us. We are born, we have grown, we got the modifications, the decay also will be experienced. If you are more than 50, you will be absolutely evident to that. That is known as Sthola Shariram. Now Sukshma Shariram doesn't undergo these 6 kinds of modifications. How fantastically the definition have been given, you see, Now Sukshma Shariram iti kim? What is Sukshma Sharira? Apanchikrita Pancha Mahabhotaihi Kritam Satkarma Janyam Sukha Dukha Bhoga Sadhanam. That which is instrument of happiness. This physical body becomes abode of enjoyment of happiness and sorrow. But here the Sukshma Sharira, which becomes the means for enjoyments. Pancha Jnanendriyani Pancha Karmendriyani Pancha Pranadayaha Manaschaika Buddhishchaikam Evam Sapta Dasha Kalabhihi Yatyasthati Tad Sukshma Shariram from Tattva Bodha. Now we have to understand what is Sukshma Sharira, what is my subtle body. Subtle body is nothing but 17 varieties of aspects in me. Seeing capacity, listening capacity, smelling capacity, tasting capacity, touching sense. All these are all called knowledge oriented sense, through which I can get the data of the knowledge, called Jnanendriyani. Mouth, okay, hands, legs, and two kinds of organs which we use to excrete. These are all called Karmendriyani. Whatever I say, you yourself can experience. Do you walk or not? Yes, sir, I walk. So many people, they don't walk at all. When you walk, the walking is the best medicine to maintain your health. This portion, this portion has to be given function every day. You have to stand on the earth. You have to walk on the earth. Earth likes it. You have to get connected with the earth. We should not wear the shoes with a high heel. We have to walk a little bit. Every day walk in the morning. Let us allow people to sleep up to 5 o'clock. It doesn't matter. Once you get up, you clean everything, have small prayer and start walking. Walking in the nature. Not walking in the treadmill. It's not walking, jogging. You have to see many things. You have to, observe not only oxygen, I'm telling. These pranas, the 5 kinds of pranas will become balanced. This walking becomes exercise for Jnanendriyani, Karmendriyani, 5 kinds of pranaha. So these 5 kinds of pranaha must be understood properly. There are force, they are in the form of energy. The energy, force that pushes towards up, pushes towards down, that which helps to circulate, that which helps for digestion, that which comes from the outside world to inside. All these 5 aspects of energies are called prana. Then faculty, which is known as mind, the thinking faculty. And there is a faculty which helps us to make the decision called buddhi. All these 17 items together called subtle body. When a person dies, the 17 aspects, it goes away. The who takes away, that consciousness alone takes. We can say that it's pulled by that consciousness. It drags. Karushati, Prakriti sthani karushati. Prakriti sthani means here, Prakriti means body, mind, sense. Sthula sharira. It pulls. That's what we call death. Then it gets one more physical body. Now the consciousness, which is the base of the reflected consciousness, is original consciousness. That original consciousness is me, my dear. When you understand, my God, you wonder by seeing your own body, mind, sense complex. It works thoroughly, carefully. Therefore, I always say, body won't commit mistake. That we commit mistake out of our likes and dislikes. Eating, overeating, or non-eating, or eating some kind of junk food, putting ice creams, salads, chocolates. We spoil it. If we give proper food, water, space, definitely this body will be alive healthily up to 100 years. Body never commit mistakes because body is not made up of human being. It's because of Ishvara. So Ishvara functions there. We have to value that Ishvara who is sitting inside. That's what happens when we understand. Mama eva amshaha. Amsha means part. Part means what? Reflection. My reflection alone you find in your body, mind, sense complex, and with all other shariras, in all the materials in the world, with all kinds of organs, 5 karmendriyani. Then the mind is known as sashtendriyani, the 6th sense. Mind is the 6th sense with buddhi. Now jiva is to be understood, that original consciousness which doesn't set any travel. This ahankara, this limited consciousness, the reflect consciousness, that reflected consciousness alone survives. It craves for surviving. It has got longing. It is with expectations, craving attitude. Everything belongs to whom they belong to, only that reflected consciousness. Now the reflected consciousness must be realized that I am nothing but a reflection. The realization is not for Brahman. The realization is for that reflected consciousness. It should understand I am nothing but a reflection of the original. So original I is nothing but my Nijaswarupa. That must be the realization one should get. That realization which is required in order to slay the samsara vriksha. So Bhagavan develops this concept a little bit elaborately, and gradually he brings more subject into that. Because it's a 15th chapter. Hereafter he is not going to talk about this reflected theory, then the theory of equation. They are not theory. This is the concept, or we can call it, it's a Vedanta knowledge. Hereafter, from next chapter, means the next chapter he is going to talk about Daivasura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga. Then next is Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. Then the 18th is Moksha Sannyas Yoga. We are in the ending portion of Bhagavad Gita. Once you complete this 15th chapter, then all other chapters, phadaphat ho jayega. Then you can have a confidence, I have completed Bhagavad Gita. Then we will continue, and we will try to understand more with the help of forthcoming verses from next session tomorrow. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namo Namaha. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.